Estate planning is the number one tool to ensure that our houses stay in our families.
That's why you make the big bucks. The only thing you ain't did is run for public office. Huh?
Oh, no. I got a past. What are we doing here? I would like to put $1,000 to estate planning in your box.
What else in the box?
What's up, y'all? Get ready to break it down and level up. Welcome to Doing Numbers, your number one financial literacy podcast in the world. Clap it up. I'm your host, Olu.
I'm your host, Scott.
So bring your pen and pass because it's about to get real. Today, we have a special guest with us. We have attorney Lashonda Jones here with us, y'all. Clap it up for Lashonda Jones. Lashonda is an attorney, an estate planning attorney that practices focusing on helping families within their community at all income levels, ensures that they have a plan in place to ensure their legacy. Her focus is guiding her clients through the often confusing maze of financial and legal decisions to establish a foundation that ensures the well-being of their families and the accomplishment of their goals. Her legal expertise includes family protection, wealth preservation, and value-based planning, along with personal injury recovery and small business advising. Lashonda is a proud HBCU graduate of Lincoln University of Missouri. She earned her law degree from St. Louis University School of Law in 2007 while working as an underwriter for the federal government. Lashonda quickly realized the need for a community-centered attorney. In 2008, she started the law office of LaShawnda D, LLC. And since inception, focused on providing education and legal support throughout her community. In addition to her practice, she worked as an adjunct professor at Washington University. She has a passion for education and embodies that through her efforts to educate the community on the importance of family legacy and preservation. LaShawnda has been a member of the Missouri Bar Association since 2007 and the Georgia Bar Association since 2019. She is an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She currently serves as the president of the Lincoln University of Missouri Atlanta Alumni Chapter and a board member of the 62nd and 65th Regiment's Legacy Foundation, whose mission to develop, manage, and awards funds for scholarships to Lincoln University of Missouri students. When Lashonda isn't serving her community, she enjoys traveling, fitness, and spending time with her two children, Devlon and Amari. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Lashonda Jones.
Thank you.
You got a pretty extensive bio here, and you've done some solid things, it appears here. So I definitely want to just get into what led you from underwriting for the government to becoming a community-centered attorney.
So when I was in law school, like the path my entire life was law school. It was never a question, what I was going to be. I knew I was going to be a lawyer. I didn't know what kind of law I wanted to practice. When I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer, I didn't even have a concept of what that really meant. So when I was in undergrad, I had a friend of mine worked for a management office that managed low-income housing. And I got a job being the summer help, and then I worked there for a really long time, pretty much throughout my entire undergrad. So I had felt a passion for real estate. That turned into, okay, I want to go into real estate law. It's so hard. It was always so hard for me to focus like what my goals are going to be into what school is going to be for me. So I didn't focus on real estate law in school. I was like, I can be a real estate lawyer. I want to do what I like in undergrad. So I studied abroad. I got an international study. I worked at a clinic. So I had a lot of different things that weren't real estate related, but I was working for this management office.
Gotcha.
Not my senior year, but my third year, like everybody's trying to get law firm jobs. Nobody was hiring me. I was showing up to interviews with like, what I wanted to wear, how I wanted to look. And that wasn't for corporate America. So I was like, I guess I'm not for corporate America, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't get any law firm jobs in law school. But I got an internship with HUD as a non-attorney. So I was on the underwriting side. It wasn't even called underwriting then. But I loved it. And I was like, okay, I could see myself doing this, but a little bit of my ego is like, girl, you went to law school.
Right.
You got to
See
be a
that
lawyer.
through.
Yeah.
So I took a leave of absence from my job, passed the bar, got licensed. My director was like, oh, you coming back. I'm offering you a position as a non-attorney. Come back. But I'm like applying for law firm jobs, and I'm like, I'll take this job. I'm not gonna take this job.
Right. They saw something different in you.
Yeah, and he said, this gonna be your career. So like you probably should start thinking about what your long-term plans are. And I'm like, it's a short-term plan. I'm gonna go work for some big real estate firm. But I graduated in 2007 when the real estate market crashed.
Got you.
And all the law firm jobs wanted to pay me $50,000, $60,000. I'm like, I'm making more than that at the government. So I stayed, and I found out that I was able to help the community, but still like have my hand in real estate, learn a lot. And it was great, but I wasn't practicing law. So when you hear that 2008, I started my practice, I, checked with the government, like as long as I'm not doing real estate or no conflict of interest, I could practice. I could take cases. So that's what I did. I just started my own firm, started going to bar association events, started picking up clients, working with firms who had more experience, like getting a little bit of mentorship. And I've always been a solo practitioner.
That's great.
Yep.
So when O was doing your bio, you made a little sound. Can you do that for me one more time?
Ooh.
Yes, sir. Delta, finish me off.
Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Get me right. Get me right. You did that in undergrad?
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool.
2004.
So what inspired you to take that organization as opposed to another one?
I was raised in it. My grandma's a Delta. My dad's an Omega.
So
my
legacy.
uncle's Omega.
Cool.
Yeah. So I knew there wasn't a question what I was going to do. It was just when I was going to do it.
Kind of like you being a lawyer.
Yeah.
I got
Yep.
you.
My path has been pre-written, except nobody. I didn't know any lawyers. The lawyer I knew was Claire Huxtable. That was the lawyer I knew.
You.
So,
It drew a little inspiration from that. So just walk some of our audience members down, especially the women who may even be looking up to you as maybe the new Claire Huxtable. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what some people are telling their kids. So for those who would be telling their kids, hey, you should look at LaShawnda's path and, maybe take some notes from her. Could you just enlighten us on what that process looks like as far as getting into law school, some of the, processes and things that you have to go through in order to obtain your license?
It was, okay, so getting into law school, everything is about money. And testing, but like money and testing sort of go hand in hand. So I grew up a very, very low income. My parents had 6 kids. They could not afford for expensive LSAT. So like that's the test. You got to take the LSAT, score high on the LSAT, have good grades, be active in your community, and then you get scholarships. Well, I was not a test, like my test scores were always really low, but grades were on point, community service, like who all that stuff.
You checked all the boxes.
And I probably saved up money for, it was called Power Score. I don't know if Power Score is still out. They did their best. It was like a 2-week course maybe, but everybody was taking, I want to say, I can't remember the names of these courses, but they're big name courses that most people take. And if you take those courses, you probably do pretty well.
Gotcha.
On the LSAT. Okay. I would say save your money, pay for the course. If that's really like, you trying to get scholarships, take a loan out. Pay for the course because that money is going to help pay for school. But get school paid for, because if I could go back in time, I would have went to a different law school. I would have saved some money, and because I came out with a lot of debt.
Got you.
So you spoke about undergrad, and could you probably highlight where you were as far as financial literacy when you were taking undergrad? Like, where were you?
I was very saving oriented. Because we didn't have much, I already had this. I know how to pay for things. I know if I need something, what I need to do. I did work a little bit in undergrad, but my focus was really school. So work was secondary.
Gotcha.
But I had to make sure bills were paid and things like that. I knew to save. I knew not to run on my credit, but there's so much that I didn't know. I didn't know how to pay for college, actually, because I had a full ride scholarship in undergrad. So when you get a scholarship, nobody sits you down and explains to you
how it works.
Yeah. So I ended up with a lot of debt in law school because I didn't know. And my options for law school were limited in my mind because I thought I didn't understand how you pay for school.
Gotcha.
So I was like,
because responsibility was taken away from you.
Yeah.
Because you had the scholarship.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, I can't go out. I got to go to school in town because I can't afford to live off campus. So I only applied to St. Louis University. I was fortunate that my parents were big on like not overspending and saving and thinking about your future. I remember being real little, and my dad would always be like, is that an asset or is that a liability? So, I kind of knew those things.
So the caution behind financial literacy is where you were. Gotcha.
But it definitely was just like a little bit, just a little sprinkle, just enough so when I did graduate from undergrad, I didn't have credit card debt and I didn't have student loans.
Okay. So it just set you up to after undergrad for you to be financially stable. But not necessarily knowledgeable.
Right.
Got you.
Right.
Yeah. I had a similar expectation or tutelage as far as financial literacy was concerned. Even after undergrad, I didn't really understand credit or anything like that. So it was important for me to ask you that because of the field that you're in, a lot of people don't understand the importance of estate planning.
No.
Before they need it.
Even in the field that I'm in, I will tell you, I didn't understand the importance of estate planning. My estate planning career didn't start until the pandemic. I was practicing law and I had drafted some wills for people, but I didn't really understand the importance of it.
Gotcha.
Or how my drafting really affected their lives. Like, I was a family, 50% of my clients was family law. And then I was working for myself. So whatever came through the door, if I felt like I could do it, I did it.
Gotcha.
But it was time consuming and it felt it pulled me in a lot of directions.
Gotcha.
And so it made my impact feel smaller. I would have some big wins in family law, but some big losses in family law, and then maybe end up focusing on something else, and then have some big wins and then some losses. And it was like I really want to laser focus on one thing that I can make a difference in.
How did you keep that process from watering down your passion for your profession?
I don't know. I don't. My passion for my profession. I don't have a passion for my profession. Okay. I'll say I have a passion for my community, and I have a passion for people. I
appreciate you being candid about that.
Yeah. So it is. I'm grateful that I went to law school because there's so many different ways you can help people and community. So that passion keeps me going through all of the other stuff because it gets tough.
Yeah.
When I was doing family law, my target client was non-traditional custodial parents, which that's like code word for Black men. Okay. Because that's who were the parents that I was helping. These are people who were distrustful of the legal system, so they often came way too late, and it was always an uphill battle. But if you were willing to start that battle, then you really want to be in your kid's life.
Gotcha.
And I really want to help you. So it was really hard to it's really hard to have a passion for a profession that you see definitely goes against that.
Gotcha.
Like it's just blatant. And I mean, even though I've transitioned like 95% of my practice away from family law, even the cases that I still have right now, I'm still dealing with issues like that.
Okay. So I want to dive in a little bit of family law. We're going to get into that, but I'm going to take a couple steps back real quick because I find it fascinating you getting into estate planning, but coming from the background that you come from, it sounds like you didn't come from an affluent background in the beginning. So myself, I've gotten into financial planning myself. That's what I do as my profession. So now that I'm in it and I've learned a lot through my education, I'm now going back and thinking like, man, I wish I would have knew this back then. Has there been any moment for you where you like, that you can remember like, man, I remember when this happened, this would be perfect for that moment that we had once before, you know? So
Yeah.
Can you go back in time a little bit?
I would, some of the student loan money that I was getting, I would have absolutely invested that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and not even looked at it. Invested and then, moved on. And even though, like, some people are like, oh, you're investing, but you got debt. And it's like, yeah, you figure out that mix because you kind of got to do both.
Right.
But I absolutely would have done that. And then every single thing my dad said not to do, I would have not done. And every single thing my dad said to do, I would have done.
Gotcha.
So I had, you're young and you see a couple dollars and you think every opportunity is a good opportunity.
Right.
And it's not.
Exactly.
And your parents, even if your parents aren't the most financially literate, they lived and they've seen some things. So
Gotcha.
those are some of my big mistakes. I definitely wouldn't have took out as much student loan debt though. I would have went to HBCU law school.
Okay.
That I would have went out of town.
Gotcha.
So remember, this goes back to me not knowing that I didn't know how you could pay to live and pay for school. I didn't realize that you get a set amount of federal aid, and if your school costs less than that, then you had the money to live off of. But I went to SLU and nothing was less than SLU. So, I could have went to Texas Southern or something that was more affordable, out of town, and then I would have had an experience that I would have enjoyed a little more too. So,
Do you feel like that kind of set you back, or it didn't really springboard you to get ready for this type of profession?
I think it held me back on a particular timeline, but I don't think it held me back from getting to where I got. I think I needed to do all those things to get to where I got.
Got you.
But it just took me a little longer to appreciate, because I always knew that I couldn't assimilate very well. That's one of my biggest issues. And so I thought that was the only path for someone who wanted to be a professional.
Got you.
But if I had have stuck out the HBCU pathway, especially in law school, then I would have realized, it's all these other pathways.
Facts.
So I got to my pathway a little bit later.
Got you.
I have a specific question for our audience, and you explained about your passion for our communities, right? Could you possibly highlight for our communities why estate planning is important and not just for the rich?
Estate planning is for anybody who wants to ensure that the things they have go the way they want it to go.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have kids, it's like our community loses so much of their assets, and our assets are not just financial assets, but we lose so much of our assets because we don't plan and we aren't organized and we don't know. We don't know. It's like, if you don't know, what are you going to do?
You only know what you know.
Yeah, you only know what you know. Exactly. So, I think the scenario, even though this is a financial asset, that most of us are probably touched by is Granny's house, right? And so, we all laugh and joke about, them people taking our communities and,
gentrifying and things like that.
And so estate planning is the number one tool to combat that because it's a tool to ensure that our houses stay in our families. And once we lose the house is where you build. Like if you look back in time, people's wealth generally come from home ownership.
Yeah.
We haven't really been afforded that because our generations don't always go, the next generation is doing a little better and a little better.
Right.
A lot of times one generation does well, one generation doesn't do as well. Maybe a little back and forth. But in that back and forth, that generation that doesn't do as well loses that house because not because they aren't trying, but it's hard to maintain an asset like that. And so there are tools that you can set up to ensure that homes pass outside of probate where courts and lawyers aren't getting pieces of the money. That money could go into paying the taxes, upkeep.
Exactly.
Moving expenses. So
do you base the negligence and the misunderstanding that our Black community has, it just comes from simply them not knowing what they don't know? Or are you finding that there's other reasons as to why it's neglected?
There's a lot of not knowing what you don't know. And then there's a lot of our community being taken advantage of.
Okay.
For even people who do know. Because sometimes okay, well, I know I need to do something, and so you get a will. But somebody knows, well, I bet you don't know what all happens in that probate process. So let's take advantage of this. So we are taking advantage of a lot. And we're preyed on a lot. If a house ends up in probate, I mean, people are pulling those public records and trying to swoop in and buy those assets. The moment that house, you see that a house is in an estate and, it's possibly a probate issue, people are taking advantage of the fact that those families need money. So we're going to, put some money in front of you and make you feel like, oh.
We care.
Yeah. But there's tools you can use so that house never ends up in probate.
Gotcha.
Now, people who are looking to pounce on those situations have less opportunity.
And when you say people, is that like your...
banks?
Okay.
For sure. Banks probably have a whole team of people just searching probate records so they can do that. And then the banks who own the homes are jumping in the moment that someone passes away. If there isn't anything in place, the heirs cannot automatically talk to the bank and work with the banks.
Wow.
Until the property is put in probate and somebody's been appointed, doesn't matter if you have a will, there's still this period of time where the banks actually by law cannot talk to you. So if you're trying to make sure a mortgage gets paid, make sure taxes get paid, and you don't have some information or access, the banks are going to take advantage of that.
Could you speak more to that? What does that timeline look like? And why is it set in place?
It's different depending on the county. Some counties move a little faster, some move a little slower. But, I mean, you're going to expect 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months, honestly, before you really get access to any bank accounts or just being able to advocate on behalf. So, basically, you'll be the judge will say, okay, you filed to be the personal representative. Now you're the personal representative. But until you get that piece of paper in your hand, you can't just go to the banks, can't just talk to a lender or, who you got the car loan through.
That's a lot of time to feel like you're in a vulnerable position for something so sensitive.
Yes. Yeah. So you have two options. You use your own money to pay for it. How many of us got enough money to take care of somebody else's household and our own household? Like the average family, your personal representative is not going to be able to do that.
Right.
And then the other thing people don't know is if your loved one creates a will and they're like, okay, Cousin Johnny is the most responsible person. We're going to put him down to be the executor. He's going to be able to handle it. But Cousin Johnny might have some financial issues. And when you do a probate, if there's property involved, 9 times out of 10, you have to get a bond. When you get a bond, guess what? They run your credit.
Right.
They charge you for that. They charge, getting a bond, there's a fee that you have to pay. So Johnny now has to worry about what his credit looks like and has to have the money up front to pay for that bond.
And so what are 3 basic documents that you feel everyone should have? Like if it was a starter pack.
Okay. That is the foundational documents. Now everybody's gonna say something different. But for me, I think every person, I think the government should make this accessible. This is actually my pitch to the world. And I feel like I speak about it enough.
Right there.
That this is like what I talk about. Like nonprofits, governments, y'all got to get together and figure out how you can help pay for everyone to have power of attorneys, healthcare directives, living wills. Those are the real foundational documents that you start with.
Okay.
Now, a lot of other people say, okay, foundational might also include guardianship documents if you have kids or a basic will. Yes, that's part of my foundational plan. But when I'm thinking about my community and knowing that everybody can't necessarily pay, the bare minimum is have a healthcare directive, have a HIPAA, have a power of attorney. Those are invaluable.
Okay.
So, and then I have a personal story. This in my own family recently just happened. Halloween. I'm traveling for work. My aunt and uncle who live here in Georgia are like my kids' grandparents. They are the stand-in because my parents live in St. Louis. Okay. So they come to school events that, spend the night. We live with them for a period of time. So they're like grandparents to my kids. So I'm out of town and my aunt calls and she's like, your uncle left the house this morning for work. We haven't been able to get in touch with him.
Oh no.
Called the church. Couldn't find him. So I'm like, okay, well, have you called hospitals? Like, has anybody else been called? I'm out of town. It's not that much I could do. Well, maybe like towards the end of the day. And this is only from a lot of investigative work. Were we able to find out that he actually was in a car accident and he was in the hospital.
Yeah.
My uncle has diabetes. His blood sugar was 10, 20, something really low.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical person. The only reason I can read this off is because they arrested him for driving under the influence.
Right.
Put him in the hospital under a pseudo name, and my aunt had to figure out how to find him.
Why a pseudo name?
Because they arrested him. So he was in custody.
Oh,
so when you're in custody, you get put under a name that isn't really yours. So, people can't find you or whatever. My aunt, it was a police officer in a room with him the entire time. My uncle was in a bag. He hit a tree. The car caught on fire.
Oh, man.
I'm like, this is crazy. Thankfully, the resource of being an attorney, when I got back in town, showed him my bar card, talked to the police. I'm trying to do everything I can, but they didn't dismiss the DUI. Because they're like, oh, we're waiting for the blood alcohol. Yeah. Okay. Did y'all get his medical reports? Oh, well, the prosecutor do that. Okay, by that time, he can be out of the hospital. What are we doing here?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, auntie, you got to get his, you just gonna have to request his medical records. She couldn't. Because just because you are a significant other does not give you access to that person's medical records. He did not have a HIPAA form signed. That HIPAA form gives her the right to be able to request his medical records. His arm was broken. He was in and out of consciousness. He could not sign the HIPAA form.
Man.
He was in the hospital for weeks before we were able to pull his medical records. We pulled his medical records because he was under a pseudo name. They weren't completely full. Like you couldn't get the full records. In the meantime, I'm handling a DUI charge for him, even though he had a medical condition. It took me months to get his medical records. This is my own aunt and uncle who I know they have their estate planning done. They had it done before I even was an estate planning attorney. And this attorney did not ensure that they had a HIPAA form. I guarantee you my aunt and uncle paid thousands of dollars for this estate plan, and that failed them in his life.
Wow.
So a HIPAA is an essential document to have.
Yeah, it is.
Because they were lucky, and they weren't lucky, but they were fortunate in the sense that I'm handling that DUI charge for them, and I'm doing all the legwork. This would have been another thousands of dollars for a medical event that he.
Right.
Couldn't avoid.
Yeah. Like the first time I showed up for the court date, they didn't have discovery. Then I show up, they get discovery, and it's the toxicology report showing he didn't have any alcohol in the system. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Well, now they want to check to see if there's anything else in the system. And I'm like, but it took me a while to get the medical records. So, now that I got the medical records, they're working with me. Right. But it's like after all this.
Regulatory systems take hold. Yeah.
So a lot of people think estate planning, I don't got to worry about that because once I'm gone, I don't care what they do with my stuff. Okay, that's fine. But it could help you in your life.
Right.
So.
Thank you for that.
Long story for foundational documents.
No, for sure.
I had a similar instance with Mom. I didn't know that any of those things were necessary. My mom had cancer. I found out in September, but the more pressing developments happened this past October. And I didn't know whether or what a HIPAA or a power of attorney was, or even if those things were necessary. But I'm lucky to have had people to tell me that those things were necessary, because a lot of those things would have went into probate, and I wouldn't have access to certain funds and so on and so forth, because you're never really prepared to lose anybody financially. So thank you for sharing.
So the best time to do it is when everybody's fine and everything's okay.
Right. Yep.
And you are expecting the best, and then you let me worry about the worst, and I'm gonna plan that way.
Got you. So I also want to know, for our people out there, because I know you say you work with all income levels, what is some of the, fees that one could look into or know that, hey, this is what about the ballpark of what you'll be looking at in order to, get my services or have this provided for you?
So how I work with all income level, for lower income, it's more educational. Okay. I am providing you with education and access to these documents, letting you know what you need and showing you how you can do them yourself. And if you have extra money, you can pay for me to give you a personalized experience to make sure that it's tailored to your exact needs. And maybe everybody can't afford that. Right. But at the minimum, you can at least have the form and have some type of protection. Right. But for people who are like, no, I want to make sure I have a plan in place that actually works. That fee range, it starts at $2,000. It goes up to infinity, because there isn't one plan that's alike. Gotcha. And it depends on what your assets are and what you're trying to do, what your goals are. So you could have low assets but high goals, and your plan could be a lot more expensive. Gotcha. And you can have high assets but low goals, and you might be on the lower end of planning. Right.
Okay. And so how is that packaged? Like, so when someone comes to you, what are they basically saying to you?
So now this is what's different about my firm. When someone comes to me, there is no package that I offer them. I'm not in the business to draft documents. I'm in the business to change how my community sees estate planning.
Beautiful.
And so where it starts with me is when you call my office, we're talking to you about scheduling a family wealth planning session. That planning session is educational and it's resourceful. So it's a 2-hour session. And in that session, we literally sit down with all your assets and we discuss your goals, your family dynamics, all of those things, because I can't plan properly for you if I don't know those things. and you can't plan properly for you if you don't know those things.
Right.
So my big goal is to get as many people as I can in these family wealth planning sessions, because that's really where the learning and the understanding starts.
Do you find that with your customers or with your communities that those consultations or those planning sessions cut any anxiety or fears that they have surrounding estate planning?
I think so. I think they cut the anxiety out, and it's emotional. I mean, sometimes when we're doing them, you know, I might have some clients crying or because it's tough to talk about. But it's relaxed, and I'm definitely listening. I'm listening to hear, because goals don't come out as this is goal A, this is goal B, this is goal C. Goals come out as, well, my sister isn't really in my life, and, you know, she's kind of mean to the kids, but she's my only sister, and, you know, and then we have this long conversation, and then when we get into guardianship planning, I'm hearing her say, I'm not that comfortable that if something happened to me, I would want my sister to be the person to step up.
Right.
And so now I'm the one leading that conversation and saying, hey, I hear you saying this about your sister. Let me tell you what would happen if something happened to you. And you tell me, are you okay with this? Or would you want something different?
Got you.
And then when she says, well, no, I know I don't want my kids to go to my sister, I can say, I can help you with that. I can make sure that you have some documents put in place to meet your goal.
Got you.
I'm not just drafting a document. I'm using that document to achieve our goal.
Got you.
That's beautiful, man. That sounds really at ease, you know, coming in, because this is a lot. It's overwhelming for sure, and it can definitely be time consuming. Like me dealing with financial planning and sitting down doing my strategies with different clients, it does get real emotional. Money is an emotional topic, conversation, assets. So I can see how extenuous the process can be. But I am interested to understand a little bit more, and for our audience members too, because we hear a lot about trust. You know, they say, man, you need to get you a trust, need to put stuff in a trust. And then we also hear about needing a will. So can you give us the difference between the two, and especially for our audience who may not know what the difference is?
Okay. So I feel like most people probably know what a will is. It's the document that you write, how you want your assets to pass. That document ends up becoming a public document when you pass away, and it still has to go to court. I think that's a big misconception. Most people think, oh, they have a will, they don't got to go through probate. No, your will has to be probated. There is no will that doesn't go into probate, and everything in that will, everything that's written in that will is public record.
I didn't even know that.
Now a trust is a document. When I'm saying a trust, I'm talking about a revocable living trust.
Right.
That's a document that is alive today when you sign it. So that's a document that you can currently use. It takes on its own identity. If it's your personal trust, it's going to have your same social security, but it's going to have its own name. Property can be titled in the name of a trust, and you can draft that trust to ensure certain things are carried out with the assets that are owned by the trust in your life and in your death.
Gotcha.
And that is not a public document, and that is a way that assets can be transferred outside of probate.
Gotcha.
Beautiful.
Now, do you need a will? Do you need a trust? This bothers me. I scroll through social media and I see, if you don't have a trust, you don't have the proper documents. And I'm like, you don't know what somebody needs. No, everybody doesn't need a trust.
Right.
Got you. Okay.
Everybody doesn't need a trust, but you might need a trust.
Yeah.
You might need a trust.
It's a possibility, but it's not standard.
It's right. It's not like I say, oh, you need a power of attorney. You need no, you need those forms. You might not need a trust, but if you own property, you own assets, there's a high chance you probably need a trust.
Got you.
Okay. And so you were talking about misconceptions that you hear. So what are some questions that you don't get that you wish more people would ask you when it comes to estate planning?
That's a good question. I don't know. I honestly don't think that I think I'm not looking for questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm looking to just get in front of people and educate.
Okay.
So it's not like my mind isn't thinking, oh, shoot, they didn't ask me that. I think when you leave, you don't walk away with me thinking, I wish you had asked me this, because I'm going to tell you.
Right. No stone unturned type of deal. Yeah,
that's,
got you.
Which is why I do that 2-hour meeting, because why should you ask the question?
Right.
That's not your field.
Right.
How would you even know what question to ask?
Right.
So it's for me to be curious and ask you the questions and give you as much education.
That's why you make the big bucks.
But no, I think the thing that I want people to ask is, how can I learn about this? Where can I go? What should I, where should I start?
Yeah.
And so I try to, as often as possible, put on events in my community, in different kind of ways. I host a legacy lunch on Friday, like not every Friday, but one Friday a month at Pittsburgh Yards, and it's invite only, because I like it to be a small
intimate
group.
setting.
Yeah. And it's for business owners. Let's talk about estate planning for our businesses and our community. So I really don't want small businesses to fail.
Gotcha.
Then I also host other events. I got one coming up on March the 4th on Sunday, and it's called Collegebound, Essential Planning for young adults and families.
That's nice.
And it's so you can start thinking about that, because I fully believe that when kids go away to school, they need those healthcare directives, power of attorneys.
Those safeguards.
Yeah. In addition, the parents need, the FERPA waiver, because they need to be able to talk to the school about the grades and all that stuff. I mean,
But they cut out the process because the kids no longer are minor. Yeah.
I need to be able to talk to the school, but most parents don't even know that when their kid goes away, they think they can call the school and do all the things they were doing in high school. They can't do that.
Right.
So
that's good. That. So, and I was just getting ready to get into asking about any initiatives or events that you throw. So any of our people here, if you're here in Georgia, Atlanta, definitely where to go. So can you just share again where they can come meet you or meet your team, get some help, some estate planning help, get some education first and foremost, and then walk away with a better peace of mind that, okay, hey, we're sewing up that loose end, which is, our legacy.
Yes. So if you wanted to meet me Sunday, May the 4th at Pittsburgh Yard, I don't know that. It's just the Pittsburgh Yard.
Yeah, no problem.
We're going to drop it. It'll be right here on the screen.
Okay, so let's edit that. Pittsburgh Yard, Sunday, May the 4th. That program is at 2. It's geared towards families with kids getting ready to go to school. I try to host an event there monthly. The Legacy Lunch is always Fridays around lunchtime. But I try to gear it towards different audiences, young professionals, grandparents. I want to educate everybody in the community, so I try to put out a little bit of different things. And so I try to do them monthly.
Gotcha.
And Collegebound this is the first rollout for this one here?
Yeah, this is the first Collegebound. And so it'll be something that I do annually.
Okay.
I'll try to do it in May every year.
Okay.
But one of my line sisters is also in Jack and Jill. And she's like, oh, can you talk to my kids about estate planning? And then that got me thinking, why haven't I done
children's book or something like that?
No, I was thinking, why haven't I done an event kind of geared towards them? Because I'm always, talking to the parents and how it's important to leave this legacy for your kids. But if we start talking to the kids, they'll know when they're parents. So
no, definitely, that's huge. And where can our people find you to even sign up to get this rolling?
So my website is www.ldclegal.com. I'm on Instagram, LDC Legal, Facebook, LDC Legal. There's a link in all those pages for a 15-minute call. That 15-minute call is free. If you think about it and you're unsure, do a 15-minute call. It won't hurt, but at least you'll get some a start.
Yeah.
And I can kind of give you a push to go, one way or the other.
Exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, guys, and we definitely want to swing that pendulum in the right way. So
I hope y'all was taking notes.
Yeah, if you want to swing that life pendulum in the right way, definitely get with LaShawnda. She can take care of you. We'll also get the link for the 15-minute consultation. So if you guys are a little unsure, not quite ready for the 2-hour meetup, but you need that 15-minute sprinkle of seed growing, we can get that for you. So we'll have that link
right
in our
here.
We'll have that link in our on our podcast for you guys to go ahead and contact her. And feel free, man, to get your life right. We definitely, that's what we're here for. That's part of doing numbers. We're here to make sure everybody get their life right. Mm-hmm. So I did want to, since we're here talking about estate planning and everything like that, I do have a special gift here that I wanted to show my audience about what we got here, because it's all about, building towards financial freedom. And similar to what LaShawnda said, we definitely want to make sure that, you guys are planning properly. So as you guys know, what I do is financial planning. So here in this box, we actually have a financial future design strategy here for one of my clients that we'll be getting it delivered to. So I'm excited for that. I hope my client is excited. They'll be able to, go in and look more into depth about what they got, what type of policy they got lined up for themselves, and any other, questions and concerns that they have, we'll be there to answer. But this is an exciting moment for myself, and I know for my client. And I wanted to dress it up real nice as far as how I deliver my packaging, because this is important. And when you delivering something like this to people and you helping change lives, you wanted to show, how important it is by pouring into, your presentation. I'm huge on presentation. So I hope, my client, she loves it, and she can look forward to a brighter future.
I would like to put $1,000 to estate planning in your box.
That's
really?
Cool.
Yes.
That's
wow.
Dope. We got to clap that one up.
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your
LaShawnda.
contribution.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
What else in the box?
What's inside, Miss Rachel, right? But no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Again, guys, Lashonda Jones, LDC Law Group. Definitely make sure you tap in with her, man. A wealth of knowledge. LaShawnda, it's been a pleasure and a blessing to have you on and share this information. Mm-hmm. We look forward to having you again. I know we didn't really get to tap into half of what, our people need to know.
I got topics, so,
Definitely. So, on the next time we have you, we'll definitely, collaborate on some topics that you feel are a little bit more important or where we should drive home towards, so our people know.
Yes, failed estate plans. We need to talk about what actually happens, like more examples. Mm-hmm. So when people hear it, hearing those examples really help make people make those decisions.
Gotcha.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it is.
Next time on DMP.
Next time, man. So
in.
Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe if you like what you heard. There's definitely some gems being given here. Definitely some basic, fundamentals for people to take and run with. So definitely make sure you utilize this information again, y'all, because it's not just for us. This is for everybody. Of course, we're going to use all of the resources we get on this show. But we want to make sure that you guys are also utilizing our resources as well. So again, like, share, subscribe. Doing Numbers every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at Doing Numbers Podcast, TikTok Doing Numbers Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Olu.
I'm your host, Scott.
Guys, have a great day. Peace out.